So starting off with the session, today we're going to see the topic migration from popular providers. So it is going to be Gmail, Outlook, and GoDaddy. So as for your affordability reasons, your security reasons, and the information data sharing reasons, you will want to switch to a different provider. And choosing Zoho Mail, which could be the best suit for you, you should be able to bring your data from a different server to Zoho Mail as well. So for that, today's session is going to cover the methods and the steps that involves for you to perform the migration. So the agenda for today is going to be domain configuration. So initially, we will be also covering how you can configure your domain and verify it. And moving forth, we'll be seeing the methods of migration that Zoho Mail has to offer for you. And last of all, we will be covering how you can perform the migration by showing you the step-by-step procedure. So moving with the first topic, initial setup and configuration. All that you have to do is create an account using your username and password, and then you have to accept the policy. Once that is done, you can add your domain and verify it. And once you verify your domain, you can add records like MX, SPF, and DKIM. Now I'll be showing you a video of how you can verify your domain by adding a TXT record. Let me just quickly show you that. So here, let's say you have purchased your domain from GoDaddy. So when you purchase from GoDaddy, it is necessary that you go to your GoDaddy's credential. Using your GoDaddy credential, you go to your GoDaddy's page, and there in the DNS page, you will have to update the record. And record that we call here is a TXT record, which you have to update. So if you ask me, where do you find this TXT record? Is once you add your domain, you will find this value in your Zoho Mail page itself. And from there, you can copy that particular value, and you can go to the GoDaddy page. There you can give in your credentials, sign in, and there inside you have to go to the DNS page and add your record. For you to add the TXT record, you have to choose TXT in type, and in the names field, you have to copy the name that is indicated for you to fill in the Zoho Mails page. Copy that name field, go to your GoDaddy page, and paste it there in the name field. And then come back, copy the value that we have provided, and go back to the page and paste it there. And TTL is nothing but time to live, where you can update a value there or a specified period within which the particular value will be reflected. You have to wait until the particular period, whatever you specified, to take its time, and only then the values will reflect. And once that is done, you can click on Verify TXT Record, and that will enable the verification. So what did we see now is, for you to create an account, as we already discussed, all that you have to give in is your email address, set in a password, and enable the policy. Once that is done, then an account is created. And as you know, you can create a business account, and that's where you will update your domain. So when you update your domain, you have to add your domain, and then you will be taken to a page where this TXT record will be shown to you, displayed to you. And that's where you will copy this value, go to the domain providers page. Inside the DNS page, you will update this record. Once that is updated, then your domain will get verified. Okay. Same way you can do MX, SPF, and DKIM as well. The same procedure will be followed. I just wanted to show you the initial setup, so it'll be easier for you to understand migration as to how this mail is being fetched here and everything like that. So it's important for you to configure your domain and verify it, and also add MX, which is the major record that you have to add, so that all of your mails comes to the right server, which will be Zoho's server. Okay, you have to configure MX, and then SPF and DKM is for spam verifications. Now moving into data migration. So in data migration, you have 3 different methods that Zoho Mail provides you for you to migrate your data. You have one-click migration, server-to-server migration, and exchange migration wizard. These are the 3 different methods. Now let me tell you the difference. Exchange Migration Wizard is a tool that you can install in your laptop, and you can conduct a migration. For you to bring in data in the format of email or PST, you can also bring in data from the Exchange servers. Whereas you have other two methods, which is server-to-server migration and one-click migration. And the major difference between these two is one-click migration only requires you to have an admin credential for you to bring in the data of all the user you have in the different provider. Whereas server-to-server migration requires you to have each and every credential of your users to bring in data. And we have also brought in some extra steps where you can actually let the user to authenticate their account instead of the admin having their credentials as well. I'll be explaining you in detail while I'm showing you a live demo of the same. And to point out the next difference is, in one migration, you get to choose what data you wish to migrate: mail, contacts, and calendar. Whereas in server-to-server migration, you only have an option to bring in mail data alone. Okay, so these two are the major difference between these two methods. Now moving into, and in today's session, we will be seeing one-click migration and server-to-server migration alone. So moving into the migration procedure, server-to-server migration will be the first method we will be discovering together. And in that, you have IMAP protocol and POP protocol, which you can use to bring in data. And these two, again, have its own differences. And to point out one or two, if you're using IMAP migration, the folder structure will be migrated as well. Whereas in POP migration, the folder structure and all will not be migrated. Only the mails will be migrated directly, okay, as direct emails and not as folders. And the next difference is, if you're using IMAP migration, if there is any issue while the migration is going on, then you'll be able to easily track it down in IMAP migration, whereas POP migration will not enable you to do that. And there are a few more differences between these two, and I would recommend you to go through them before you choose whichever migration suits you the best, whichever protocols suits you the best. All right. So let me show you IMAP migration for Office 365. So for you to conduct an IMAP migration, what you need to do is, after you configure your domain, after you verify it, after you configure records like MX, SPF, and DKIM, the next thing you will be doing is adding your users. You have to create user accounts for all of your users. Okay. After you create your user account, you can go to data migration and migrate each and every user's data to the specific user account you have populated here. Okay. So for you to do that, you go to data migration section inside Zoho Mail admin console, and there you will specify the server details of your external server, which is Outlook. And then you have to import your users, start the migration, and you can check for the reports for any failures in the migration. So let me show you how it is done. Okay. So this is the admin console. Okay. Here, I'm going to go to data migration. And there you have to click on create and give it a name for your reference, and then click on add new server details. When I create a new server detail here, those server details will be saved in saved server details. And whenever I'm about to perform another migration, it will be listed here as such. So I can directly import the server details right from here instead of having to give in the server details every time I perform the migration. So this way I can perform batch by batch migration and yet be able to do it easily by fetching data right from the saved server details and saved settings. Okay. For now, I'm going to go with the new server details, and there I'm going to choose IMAP. Okay. And click on others because this is not Gmail. Click on others and click on outlook.office365.com. That's the server details. And click on add. Once that is done, you will be taken to the settings page, and there you will have a name auto-populated with a name you've already created for the migration. And then in the folders, you can choose all folders or specific folders. If you choose all folders, you can specify the folders in this particular column saying these are the folders I don't want in my account. So you can decline some folders by specifying them here. And same way, you can go with specific folders and specify the folders you only want to be migrated. And then you have emails to migrate. You can go with all emails or emails in a specific date range. And then you have enable pop access. This means if you choose yes, then the migrated users will have access to the migrated emails. And then you have preferred authentication type, which is enter user first password manually or one-time authentication by each user. What this denotes is that, so when you add your users, as I already told you, in IMAP migration, you need to have the user credentials of all the user in order for you to migrate their data into this server, right? So if you're going to choose the first method, you will have to have the password and the username of your users in hand with you for you to perform. Or you can go with the second method, one-time authentication by each user, where you can copy this particular link and share it with your user. What that user will do on the other side is he or she will paste that particular link in the tab, and also in another tab, they have to open the Zoho Mail account that you have created for them inside Zoho Mail. As I already told you, you have to create user accounts here for you to start the migration. So you can share the credentials with them. They will have to open the Zoho Mail account of their own account there in one tab, and in another tab, they can copy paste this value. Once that is done, there will be an authentication that happens and it gets verified. So let me show you how it is done. For now, just choose the method how you're going to add users. I'm going to choose the second method. Okay. And you go to the create platform, and there you have maximum connection limit, which is the number of people that you choose to migrate simultaneously. Let's say you want to migrate on a total 10 users. Then if you specify 5 here, then 5 users will be migrated simultaneously, and the next 5 will start to migrate. So that's a simultaneous migration that you can do. But you need to know the server capacity for you to specify a number here. We cannot specify a big number here. And then you have pause migration when the storage reaches 80% or 95%, which means, so if at all you've started the migration and here in this storage space inside Zoho Mail, there is a storage bloating that's happening. Then when you want to stop the migration for you to take further measures is something you can choose. You can choose 80%. Once you choose that, what happens is, at 80% storage, the migration stops. And for you to resume it, you can delete some emails or you can upgrade to a better plan and you can resume the migration. And do not worry about duplication of mails. Only the mails that have not yet been received will start migrating. Okay, let me click on create. Great. So going to the user section, as I told you, the user has to authenticate this particular link, right? So let me show you. Just a moment. Okay. Great. So since the account is already opened in this particular, as you can see, the user account is already logged in for Zoho Mail in this very tab. And in the next tab, I'm authenticating that particular link. So once I do that, it will be successfully verified. This is what the user has to do on their side. And once that is done, you can come to the admin panel and you can add the person's account here. Here in the first source username, you have to specify the user account of the person of the previous server and enter the destination email address is the user account you created for that particular user inside Zoho Mail. Okay, let me specify it. Just a moment. Okay. And in the priority, can you see, in the previous dialog box, you had a priority of high and low. So what that indicates is if you select high, let's say you are migrating 10 different users and you specify 5 users as high priority. Then those 5 users are the users will be migrated first and the rest of the users will be migrated later. Okay, so that's how priority works. Now you can click on start migration. And okay, let me just end this. Okay. You have migration in progress, abort migration, and refresh. You can anytime refresh the migration for you to see the current status of the migration. For you to see the status, go to the configuration page, and there you will find status. In total, how many people you have added for migration, how many have completed the migration, how many are in progress, and how many have failed. Okay, and when you go to the user section, you can also click on the user for you to see the mail-wise migration. Here you will have the folders name saying these are the folders which has been completely migrated. Okay, if there has been any failure in bringing some emails, then you can find them under mail failures, and you can also find the reason here. Okay, and so that's how we will do an IMAP migration for an Office 365 account. And now let me show you how an IMAP migration can be done for a Gmail account. But before that, here can you see a completed migration? This is how a completed migration looks like, where the status will be completed, the number of people you added, the number completed, and in progress and failed. So this is how it looks like. Okay. Now moving back, just as I promised, let me show you how an IMAP migration for for a Gmail account has been done. And you can choose add new server details again. And in the select protocol or application, that's where you have to choose IMAP. And this is where you differ. Here, Gmail is auto-populated, the server details. If at all it was Office 365, just like we did in the previous time, you have to choose others and choose the Office 365 server details. Fill in that. But for now, it is Gmail and imap.gmail.com and click on add. Okay. And in the settings page, if you can see, the name is again auto-populated. Choose the folder you want to migrate, all folders or specific folders. Choose the emails you want to migrate, all emails or specific emails. And then enabling POP access, which simply means enabling the migrated emails to be accessible for the migrated users. And then you have other preferences option, which wasn't there while we were doing IMAP for O365, because here you have a concept called labels. What happens is, if you have labeled some of the mails, then when you migrate them here, those labels will be considered as folders here. So specific labels will be named as folders, and you will be finding the emails labeled with that name will be under the particular folder here. Okay. And you also have mark important as tag and mark starred as tag, which means if you are marking a mail as important or starring a mail in Gmail, then when you migrate it here, you can choose to automatically tag them. Okay. So you can enable this option. And the first option indicates that for you to exclude some of the duplicates, which is the mails that are labeled will fall under the folder's name as well as the inbox. So for you to avoid that duplication, you can enable this option. Okay, and I'm clicking on add. And then I'm going to create, and there you have the connection limit, which is, again, you can specify the number of people you wish to migrate simultaneously. You can specify the number here. And then you can pause the migration when the storage reaches either of this storage limit. Clicking on create, I can go to the user section and there click on add. Here I'm having to specify the user's password manually. As you can see, we also had the same method in Office 365, but we chose to choose a different option, which was to let the user authenticate on their side. Okay, but this option is also available in Office 365 for some of the users, but for other users, the particular provider has disabled this option. Okay, so that's why I showed you the second method. But here you can choose this method itself. So I'm specifying a Gmail account that I have, and you have to specify the password. You can give in the login credential, but if a two-factor authentication is enabled in that account, make sure to copy paste the add password here and not the login credential. Okay, so for you to do that, go to the avatar. This is the test account. You have an avatar here on the top. Clicking on that, click on your Google account and search for add password. Okay. And specify why do you need an app password. Just a moment, let me authenticate this. Yeah. So I need it for Zoho Mail and create. Once I do that, I will have my app password ready for me. Copy that and paste it here. And in the destination email address, mention the person to whoever's account you want to, migrate this data, and click on add. Great. So this account is added. For now, I'm just stopping with adding one account, but this is how you add a Gmail account if you're using an IMAP migration. And then you can start the migration. So again, once you start the migration, you will have option to abort the migration anytime you want and also refresh and see the current status of the migration by going to the configuration page, and you can see the status of the migration. And again, you can go to the user section, click on the user and see the mails or the folders that's been fetched and the mail failures. Okay. So that's about how you will do an IMAP migration for Office 365 and G Suite. Okay. Now, let's move into the next method, which is one-click migration. And guys, if you have any doubts, do feel free to post them in the Q&A section. We have our experts ready to answer all of your questions. And regarding your IMAP migration or any other doubts that you have regarding migration, you can post them in the Q&A section. Okay. Now, continuing with the session, the next method is going to be one-click migration for Office 365. And the methods that we're going to follow is you have to provide a server detail, provide a name for the migration, select new server details. Under the protocol and application, you have to choose Office 365, assign the application impersonation role, and log in to the role assigned role account. So what is this application impersonation role is? As I was already telling before, if you're using a one-click migration method, all that you need is the admin credential for you to do the migration. So that admin is someone you have to assign an extra role, and that will be application impersonation role. Only if you assign that role, then you will be able to use that person's credential in order to bring users' data from the previous server to the new server. Okay. So I also be showing you how you can, access that application impersonation role, assign it to a person. And then you have the basic settings that you do. That is, select the data to be migrated, the folders and emails to be migrated, the connection limit, storage limit, and add migration. And finally, you will import the user, start the migration, and you will be able to also access the status of the migration. So let me show you how this is done. Great. So moving into the admin console back again, you have to create a migration for you to perform a one-click migration. So let me just create that. Give it a name and choose add new server details. And the protocol and application, you're going to choose Microsoft 365. Okay. And it's already signed in. If you haven't, all that you have to do is click on sign in, and you will be prompted with this page. Click on the account, give the password, and you will be taken into the account or given the authentication. And that's all. That's about the server details. And then you will be taken to the settings. There, you have to give it a name for the settings, and you can choose the data you wish to migrate. And that's the privilege of this particular method, where you get to choose what data you wish to migrate, whereas in IMAP, that wasn't given to you. Only mail can be migrated. Okay. Here you can choose mail, contacts, and calendar. And folders to migrate, you can choose the folders as all folders or specific folders. And emails to migrate, all emails or specific emails sent and received in a specific date range. And you have enable pop access for the migrated emails. Okay. You can click on add. Same goes for create, where you can choose the maximum connection limit. That is the number of people you wish to migrate simultaneously. And you have pause migration when the storage reaches 80% or 95%. Okay. Clicking on create. Great. Now going into the user section, you can add the user right from here. Clicking on this, I will have a drop down, which will allow me to choose the person who I wish to migrate. Okay, and here you have priority, high and low. So as I already told you, whoever you want to migrate first, regardless of whoever you add for the migration, you can give them as high priority. And you have mailbox type as well. If you want user mailbox, in place archive mailbox alone, or shared mailbox to be migrated, you can choose the option as per your preference and add them. Okay, and you can start the migration. Great. Again, you have our options to abort the migration, refresh to see the current status. And you can go to the users, click on the user to find the data-wise migration, which is mail, contacts, and calendar. You also have mail failure section available for you to find why the mails have failed to come, if at all there is a failure. Okay. So we have also covered how you can do one-click migration for O365. And next we are going to see the one-click migration method for Google Workspace. So for you to do this, you have to provide the server details, same way as we did for Office 365. But one thing that differs here is this requires you to give in the admin email address, service account email address, and a secret key. Okay. And you have to go to developer console, and there you will go to Cloud Shell. Click on the Cloud Shell and a terminal opens for you. I will be showing you a detailed video on this, but then for now, let's just see the steps. Okay. In that terminal, you have to create a project and download the secret key. As we already know, we need three things. One is the Google Workspace admin credential, which is the username. And then you need a secret key. And then you also need a service account email address, right? So we have to fetch all those things. For us to do that, you already have the username of the account of the admin. And next you need a secret key. For that, you have to open developer console, and there you have to go to Cloud Shell and open a terminal where you have a project that you will be creating, under which you can download a secret key. And there again, you will also find a service account email address as well. So all the first step requirement is done. And then you have to authorize the Google admin console. For you to do that, you have to go into the Google's admin console, and there you have to do certain steps. But before we see this, we'll just finish off with this particular demo for us to not be confused. Okay. So here, what you need to do is go into Google's developer console, and there you will click on the Cloud Shell option. This is the option that you will be selecting on the top. Okay. So once you select that, a terminal will open for you on the bottom. And in that terminal, you have to create a project. Can you see? And you have to copy paste this value from the help page. Then give it a name for the project. Once done, click on Authorize. So this will let you download a file where you can have a secret key and the service account email address. And it will also contain something else which is very important, which is called the client ID, which will be useful in the next step. But let me show you that. So you can click on download here, and that again will open something like this. Okay. Here you can find a client email address, which is the service account email address we are talking about. Okay. And you also have client ID, which will be useful for you in the next step. Okay. For now, let's just make a note of this. Okay, the client ID. All right. And let me show you how it looks for you to do it. So here, when you click on create, you just have to give it a name, Gmail one click, sort of like that. and click on New Server Details and Google Workspace. Okay. So when you click on this, as I already told you, you need to fill in these details, which is the super administrator's email address, the service account email address, and upload a secret key. Okay. You just have to upload whatever you downloaded right now, whichever I showed you in the video. And you also have the service account email address now in your hand, which is the client email address. Okay. So once you finish off with the first step, you already know what we are going to do in the settings and create, since we saw that plenty of times now. And then you will go into user accounts, and there you can add your users without a password. But before you do that, you also have another authentication step for you to do it. I'm going to show you what that is. Make sure you make a note of the client email ID and the client unique ID. Okay. So once that is done, you have to go into the Google Workspace admin account. And there on the left side, you will find security. Click on that and click on access data control and API controls. Inside the API controls, scroll down to find manage domain-wide delegation and click on add new. Now you have to copy paste the client ID here, the unique ID. And then in the auth scopes, you have to find the auth scopes from the help page for you to copy paste it here. And then you can authorize. Once this is done, it's the same step that we followed in the Office 365 one-click migration, where you have to add your users. Okay. So let me go through all of this, the second step again. So yeah, inside the Google admin console, there you will go to manage domain by delegation, which was found inside security and API controls. And there you will go into client ID space, where you will create a new client ID and you will copy paste the client ID, which was this. Okay, I came back. But then yeah, I showed you a client unique ID, which you have to copy paste. Yes, that you will have to copy paste here. And then you will have scopes in the help page. You have to copy paste that scope and authorize. Once you authorize, you will go past the server details page alone, which will be this page. And then you have to choose settings, where you will choose the folders and emails. And then you can go to create, where you will specify the connection limit and the storage limit. Once that is done, you can add your users and perform the migration. Okay. So that's how you will perform a one-click migration. Right? So we already saw in the settings, we will be choosing the data, the folders and emails, the connection limit and storage limit, and add the migration. Once that is done, you can import your users and check for the migration status. So before we come to an end of the session, I also wanted to address about the GoDaddy account. So if you are a user of GoDaddy, it works the same way how I showed you an IMAP migration, right? So in IMAP migration, I showed you that. You can go to create, you can give it a name as your preference, and you can select add new server details, and here you can choose IMAP, and here you can choose others and given the GoDaddy's credential, server details here, and you can add it. Once that is done, you can fill in the settings and create just like how we did for Office 365, and then you can use the users section in order for you to import the users. Okay, it works the same way. Since the email hosting has been stopped for this, you can always choose whatever provider that suits you the best and migrate it. Okay, so that's what I wanted to address before I come to an end of the session.